Hey everybody, Plushie here, and today I just want to make a casual video on my personal top 5 picks of the best Grand Berserker candidates. I just wanted to make something simple after the Typhon hot take, especially considering it didn't really do as well as I wanted it to do. And also the Grand Berserker raid is right around the corner, so maybe this can help some people that has trouble deciding which one to grand. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy, and we'll get into the list in just a bit. So before we actually get into the list, I want to go through some prerequisites and lay down a couple of ground rules. Number one is that this list is going to be based around how easy it is for them to farm the Grand Berserker raid. So this is supposed to help you decide which Berserker to use to most efficiently farm this raid, because those raids, as we've seen before with Grand Sabers, drop a lot of QP, a lot of bond, and a lot of materials. So it's very much worth farming. So I do feel like if I really want to make a gameplay list for this, it's more sensible to focus on the raid part. So unfortunately, you're not going to be seeing Herc here. Herc with a passive Castle of Snowbond CE is obviously really broken, but it's not actually that broken in raiding. Number two, we're going to assume the raid is gonna be similar to how the Grand Saber raid went. So of course, it's going to be one enemy, so you're mainly going to see single targets on this list, and also you're going to be only running Berserkers in your party. So it's gonna be a very different meta than usual, because you won't be able to include the supports that you usually pair with these servants, and instead you're stuck with a full team of Berserkers. To help you visualize what that looks like, I actually made charts listing out all of the Berserkers with a supportive skill effect. If we take a look at all of the Berserkers that can give you a color type buff, unlike usual, Arts is actually the card type that has the least options. Brynhild only gives loved ones a 30% arts up, and Summer Ibuki is the only generic arts buffer. Now she's pretty good because she has a cooldown reduction and also a charisma effect, but compare that to Buster and Quick, Arts is really not looking that well, especially considering you probably won't be spamming your MP very easily either, because again, you're losing most of your battery charge supports, and also you're going to be fighting another Berserker, so your face cards are not actually gaining a lot of MP from hitting the enemies. So yeah, Arts is actually not looking so good. Buster looks like the one that has the absolute most options. You have 8 that can give you Buster buffs. Now, a lot of them are kind of bad. I think like Darius, Brynhild, and Hijikata, they're not really legit. But then you have Nightingale, who is the one that has the best color buff out of all of them. It's a 50% Buster up for 3 turns. You also have Lohi, who is an MP charger, on top of being a Buster buffer. And of course, Bunyan can also give defense down on another skill. And Quick, even though you only have 3 choices, you also have really high quality choices. Lohi, again, both buffing Buster and Quick, so you have a charger and a buffer. You also have Rikyu, who's the only 30% MP charger out of all Berserkers. So she's really nice, even though her quick up is small. And if you want to try to one-shot the enemy, you have Njolter, who has a 1-turn 50% quick up for the entire party. So Quick and Buster actually are better card types than Arts in this. And of course, you know, you have the MP chargers, which are also really rare. You have Lohi and Rikyu, which we just mentioned. You also have Castoria Summer, who's mostly going to be a main DPS, so I wouldn't consider her as a battery support. And Morgan, who is actually one of the best generic supports out of all the Berserkers, because she not just has a targetable 20% MP battery, as you can see here in the other chart I made, Morgan has very good generic buffs, a 30% defense down and a 20% attack up. Most other generic buffers are not that great, other than maybe Ibaraki Doji, because 20% charisma and 30% MP damage up, both for 3 turns, is really good. And then of course you have servants we've already seen in the color buff section, like Penthesilea, Ibuki Doji, and Rikyu. They all have additional value other than the color buffs they provide. And finally, there are also a group of servants that can give mainly resistance downs or defense downs when they use their MP. Most of them are not worth it, so I didn't include them here. The rare ones that I included here are either units that already exist in other categories, so they can optionally use their MP to buff you even more, or specifically Lilith, who can apply chaotic and can combo with certain other top tiers. Number 5 on my list is actually going to be the only AoE servant on my list, which is going to be Arjuna Altar. And this is a rating tier list, so I'm mainly going to focus on damage. And there is no Berserker that embodies hyper offense more than Arjuna Altar. Now, his MP is AoE, so naturally it's going to do less damage than single targets in general, but he more than makes up for it with his card damage, all thanks to his skill 1, a 30% attack up for 3 turns, and a 50% power mod against anyone that has a debuff on them for 3 turns as well. It also has a 5-turn cooldown, which is really short. So he's going to be doing a bunch of damage if this is activated, including both his MP and his face cards. He also has 3 Buster cards, as well as a 6,000% star absorb up on his Buster cards on his skill 2. So all of his Buster cards is going to crit as long as you feed him any stars. So yeah, Arjuna Altar, your game plan is mainly going to be using his MP once on the first turn, probably, because his MP also has a Buster down, and then just trying to beat down the enemy with your Buster cards, not even trying to go for a second MP in most cases. And again, if you're using a single target, your game plan is likely going to be similar as well, because you're not going to be able to get your MP back very easily. So you're going to fire off a single target MP and then probably try to card down the enemy as well, and your cards are not going to do nearly as much as Arjuna Altar. So yeah, despite him being an AoE, and not to mention his AoE damage is also really high in terms of his MP, overall, if you plan your fight, across 2 to 3 turns, he's usually going to catch up in terms of total damage to a single target. And finally, his Bond CE is also very solid. His Bond CE gives him a base 30% MP damage up, which is already good at boosting his MP damage. You might even be able to run a non-Black Grill offensive CE to bolster his card damage, and it also comes with a 3-hit invul. Now, the enemy might have permanent invul pierce like Musashi Grand Saber, but if they don't, this is another tool other than his guts to keep him alive so he can dish out even more damage. Number 4 on my list is actually going to be Ku Altar. Now, you might be a little bit confused because I literally just said I'm going to focus more on offense, and Ku Altar is traditionally known as a survival defensive DPS, but you gotta remember, he is a Buster single target Berserker with an upgraded MP, a triple Buster deck, and overall just really high MP damage. As you can see here, in terms of raw MP damage, he's actually really high up there. And the defensive kit actually comes into play, especially when you haven't finished your Grand Class score, but you want to farm a higher difficulty raid. In those cases, you will be forced to survive for maybe 6 to 7 turns, sometimes even, against the enemy boss. And that's when the defensive kit comes into play. His first skill is a 20% attack down for 3 turns. His second skill is a 14% defense up for 3 turns. And his MP gives him another 30% defense up for a turn. So this is a defensive kit that isn't afraid of invul pierce, which the boss might actually have. As I mentioned earlier, Musashi does have that. And also, this combos very well with one particular grand score, which is this one. Whenever you don't form a specific chain, you get 50% defense up on that turn. This means that if you're using your MP and all of your skills on that turn while not forming any specific chains, Ku Altar gets over 100% effective defense up, meaning that he literally cannot die from anything. And I do feel like that is useful in certain cases because, again, if you are trying to survive for multiple turns, just getting instant access to, 0 damage turns are very valuable, even if the evade is used up. And of course, you can also, not use your MP and still have effectively 80-something% defense up. And finally, his Bond CE, again, has a passive 30% MP damage up, as well as a Guts. I don't even think the Guts is actually that good, but the MP damage up is a great thing to have on your main DPS, further pushing the argument that his damage is absolutely fine. Of course, he doesn't have a battery, so you can also choose to use this as a 50 MP starting charge CE, and maybe run double Nightingale and give him more damage. Now, this is a controversial one. My number 3 best Grand Berserker candidate is Summer Castoria. It's controversial because she's not at number 1. As most of us know, Summer Castoria is by far the most broken single target servant we've ever seen in FGO. So why is she all the way down here at number 3? Well, easy. It's because of the circumstances. A lot of Summer Castoria's strength cannot be fully realized in this grand battle format. Number 1, Arts, as I've shown earlier, has the weakest group of buffers out of all card types. Number 2, Castoria can't actually spam her MP nearly as easily as she does in a normal circumstance where she can run art supports. Now, out of all the single target berserkers you can use, Summer Castoria is definitely still the best at spamming her MP, but it's usually just going to be back to back and she kind of runs out of gas. And 2 Castoria MPs without hitting traits is not actually that much damage. You might actually yield more damage by just using 1 MP and then buster crits with the previous 2 entries on this list. Castoria obviously is still extremely strong. She kind of has that cool alter thing going on where she can't die because she can give herself solemn defense every time she MPs, and she has another invul on her 3rd skill. I don't think it is as safe as cool alter if the enemy has invul pierce, but in general you're still not gonna die. And also Castoria has a built-in crit kit that gives her crit up, star gen, and star absorb up all together, so she can crit very easily as well. And overall, she's still like one of the safest single target units to use, but I think for raid farming, if the enemy is neither chaotic nor divine, Castoria only deserves to be on 3rd place. Of course, if Castoria actually hits her anti-traits, she can move up on the list. I believe if she hits either chaotic or divine, she would be tied with number 2 on the list, and if she hits both chaotic and divine, then she would be number 1 on the list. And it's not actually that impossible. Herc is chaotic and divine. Also, Tezcatlipoca, the actual Grand Berserker, is chaotic and divine. So if either of them happens to be the raid boss, Castoria instantly jumps to number 1, no question. Castoria's Bond CE also just gives the party 15% power mod against divine or chaotic. So usually you're gonna use it as a 50% starting charge CE unless the enemy, fits the traits. So this is again a reason why hitting traits is very important to Castoria's placements. A lot of her, kit is actually around her hitting that trait. Number 2 on my list is going to be Kintoki. I mean, is anyone really surprised? Kintoki is quite literally built to be a raid DPS. He does 1 very hard-hitting MP with a relatively short MP animation as well, and he has a 50 MP battery, and the MP is upgraded. I mean, what is there to complain, right? Like, he is one of the best multi-core single targets just because he smacks an enemy in the face very hard. He does not have any other party utility, but people still crown him as one of the best. So yeah, Kintoki obviously going to be, here. There are a couple of more things in his kit that actually is helpful in this grand raid, but not helpful in multi-core farming. Number 1 is the Buster Down. His MP casts a 30% Buster Down on the enemy for 2 turns. This only extends 1 turn after the turn he uses his MP. Usually these are 3 turns, but still, this bolsters your card damage because he has 3 Buster cards. As I mentioned earlier, most of your scripts for grand raids are going to be 2 to 3 turns. He also just has a 50 battery, so technically if you use his Bond CE as a 50% charge CE and you get a little bit lucky with card RNG, you might be able to back-to-back his MP. And if you back-to-back his MP, the 30% Buster Down suddenly becomes super valuable. because your second MP is also going to hit hard even after his attack up expires. His MP also has a low chance to stun. It's actually a 50-50. And stunning the enemy is actually really good because he doesn't have any form of hard defense. So what you're scared of is before I get to reach my second turn and use my Buster cards to do damage, the enemy just one-shots me. But if you stun the enemy, they can't one-shot you, obviously. So it's a nice, slightly unreliable contingency plan. And finally, his Bond CE is a 30% MP damage up. This almost feels like a requirement because so far, other than Castoria, everybody has this. And it also gives him a 30% chance to gain 5 MP flat whenever he uses cards. This can obviously help him spam his MP somewhat, but it's really unreliable. I would just treat this as a bonus 30% MP damage up. And also, if you want to spam his MP, you would use this Bond CE as a 50 starting charge CE instead of its base effect. So depends on what your game plan is, either way can work. So before I unveil my personal pick for the best Grand Berserker candidate, I want to bring up a couple of honorable mentions. Mainly units that have anti-traits that would have made the list if they can guarantee hit their anti-traits. So unlike Castoria, who's still good enough for the list, even without the anti-traits, these units just missed it. Number 1 is going to be Kriemhild. And she's basically a mini Kintoki. She has a 50 MP battery. She has a bunch of steroids that actually last for more than one turn. So I guess unlike Kintoki in that sense. And her MP even puts a arts down on the enemy. It's 20% only, but it's also for 3 turns. Her second skill has a 50% power mod against Chaotic. And her MP is a super effective against dragons. So I doubt the Grand Berserker is going to be a dragon, but Chaotic is actually really likely. So when she's hitting Chaotic, I think she can at least replace Arjuna Altar on the 5th place under certain circumstances. Her Bond CE is kind of like Castoria, where it's power mod against Chaotic and dragons. So if she's not hitting the trait, this Bond CE also is going to just be a 50 MP starting charge CE. So again, kind of just like worse Castoria in a sense. Another unit I want to bring up is Summer Nobu. Summer Nobu basically is carried by her MP's anti-divine, as well as the fact that her MP is upgraded. Her skill set is pretty lackluster. She has like a mini Merlin skill, but the charge is not nearly enough to actually do anything substantial. And if you want her third skill to trigger the attack up, you need to wait for a turn. You need to set the burning field with her MP, and then use her third skill. But usually, she's not going to be able to spam her MP at all. Another positive, I guess, is her triple buster deck. So that's really nice as well. But I think without hitting Divine, it's kind of just not worth using. Her Bond CE also is not that great. It buffs the entire party's buster and crit, but it also reduces the party's defense by 10%. So it increases the chance of your party dying, and that's not great. So usually you'll use it as a 50 MP starting charge CE, especially considering she has no battery. Another unit I want to bring up is Penthesilea. Penthesilea is actually one of the stronger supports out of all Berserkers because she has a charisma as well as a party-wide buster up. And as a DPS, she's really good as well. She has Golden Rule Beauty, which gives her 20% charge per turn, so it doesn't actually need her to use her face cards to gain MP. It's just a slower version of a 60 MP battery, which is pretty nice. The debuff immunity also prevents annoying enemy debuffs that can potentially cripple your offense. So overall, she's really solid for a 4-star, but she also has 100% power mod against Greek mythology male enemies for 3 turns. And of course, we're betting on Heracles on this one. If the Grand Berserker is Herc or Megalos, Penthesilea might actually be the best Berserker to use, just because of this one skill. Her Bond C, unfortunately, is also not that good. It's kind of like Nobu, where it increases the party's buster up, but it also reduces the party's defense. I will probably just use it as a 50 MP starting charge CE so that she can use her MP easily for the first time, and then the slow charge can actually help her use her MP for a second time. The final honorable mention is going to be MHXA. a 5-star. And there's definitely justification to put her in 4th place instead of Cool Alter, because her traitless damage actually outdamages Cool Alter. But she has no survival. She also doesn't have 3 Buster cards. And, you know, she doesn't have a Buster MP anyway, so you probably won't be using Nightingale with her. So her card damage is going to lose to Cool Alter by quite a bit. And she's going to die very easily as well. She has no battery, so you would most likely have to use her Bond CE as a battery CE, which is fine because her Bond CE increases damage against Sabers, which you're not going to fight against Sabers. And her MP actually has anti-good power mod by 50% for 1 turn. So if you're fighting a good trait enemy, then MHXA is going to do insane amounts of damage. And finally, in my opinion, the absolute strongest Grand Servant candidate is Lilith. I mean, is that even a surprise? She's basically better Kintoki, so if Kintoki's number 2, she has to be number 1, right? Her first skill's Charm obviously activates her super effective, but it's also a 150% chance to land. So unless you have Charm Immunity as your passive, which I don't believe any Berserker has naturally, she's gonna charm you. She also has the 50 MP battery, just like Kintoki, and her MP casts a defense down on the enemy for 3 turns, also kind of like Kintoki's Buster down, that ensures future damage. Now her card damage is going to be a lot worse than Kintoki, because she has 1 Buster card, but to be fair, her first skill is a crit up in the form of a debuff, so her card damage isn't going to be that bad, and her MP also inflicts both chaotic and evil traits on the enemy, so you can actually do a 2 MP combo, where you use Lilith's MP first, and then use someone with anti-chaotic, like Castoria or Creamhild. And if most farming scripts are 2 turns anyways, if you're using 2 MPs on turn 1, and you can actually kill the enemy in 1 turn just by using 2 MPs, then why not, right? It's literally still faster than just taking 2 turns. So Lilith is not just a strong DPS on her own, she's also strong if you combo with another Grand Berserker on your friends list maybe. And finally, she works with Rikyuu because she's quick, and Rikyuu can give a target 2-stage overcharge boost, as well as 30% MP charge. And her anti-charm on her MP scales with overcharge. So Lilith with double Rikyuu is literally 200% super effective on anything, and also you don't need any starting charge, because 30 plus 30 plus her own 50 is 100%, actually more than 100%. So yeah, double Rikyuu Lilith might be the best farming team for this raid, period. Her Bond CE also has the baseline 30% MP damage up when equipped. So just like Arjuna Alter, Cool Alter, and Kintoki, she has an additional 30% MP damage as a passive. She also has anti-lawful and good crit up 30%. I don't think those are that important, but the MP damage up doesn't require any traits to be hit. Her MP obviously also has anti-good and lawful, but I don't think that actually needs to be considered for her to be top tier. Now there's one circumstance where she can fall off, is if the enemy has either mental debuff immunity, or if the enemy has immunity to debuffs that stop them from moving. The reason I specify these 2 groups is because these are extremely common debuff immunities that Lysenko puts on bosses, because this is basically anti-cheese, right? They really hate charm locking, even though they keep making charm locking servants for some reason. So if the enemy cannot be charmed, Lilith will fall off a cliff in terms of her effectiveness. Her base damage is still very high, but at that point, Kintoki has better supports, Cool Alter has better cards and survival, so she would realistically maybe be just on Castoria's tier or even lower. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I just threw this together, this afternoon. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Hopefully it's at least a little bit entertaining. And I'll see you guys in the next one.